Okay, let's start with. Start with putting my glasses down properly, but after that, just a little self massage exercise. We use this both at the beginning and the end. It's a very adaptable exercise. We'll probably do it at both today, actually. Tapping over your face. And over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. And your arm. And it's always as much about developing a sense of presence in your body as it is about the physical effect. On the other side, that's not to suggest that the physical effect is unimportant by any means. So bringing body and mind together, as it were. Bring your hand around onto your back, just as much of your back as you can comfortably get to. And around your hips. And your legs. And up onto your belly. And onto the upper part of your chest. So then, just standing comfortably, have your feet directly below your hips and not too close together. And just start to turn in the middle part of your body, your hips, your waist. Let your arms hang down. Arms should feel quite heavy. Your arms are quite heavy. If it helps, then you might every now and then want to just deliberately take a couple of slow, gentle breaths, but not trying to breathe in any particular way or to any particular pattern, unless you're familiar with a method, a pattern, and it's comfortable for you. But even if that's normal for you, even if you do have that recollection, just bear in mind it might not work today, so nothing should be forced. And just trying to get a feeling of allowing your weight to drop through the hips, through your legs, so that really get two things out of this. One is the rooting down, as we call it. So it's like your centre of gravity is dropping right down, and that in and of itself gives us this more stable feeling. At the same time, it means there's less weight in the upper part of the body, less need to tighten up, to stiffen up. And so some of that tightness at least will begin to just dissolve away with the movement. And that in its turn leaves a little bit more space for more movement. The process of adjusting posture is an ongoing one in Tai Chi and Qigong. There always seem to be little things that can change because our bodies are always changing. So getting a sense for the feel for what the principles that we work by mean in real terms, if you like, in terms of the sensations in our body, is as important as the sort of technical side of the art. But from a technical point of view, what you actually want in this posture is your weight a little bit forwards, and that will bring your knees more in line with the balls of your feet, and just allowing your hips to settle back so your hips are more in line with your ankle bones. Posture sometimes described as sitting. Imagine you're out for a walk and you take a rest just by sitting on a fence or a wall or something like that, just to let yourself rest for a moment. But what you're sitting into is, of course, your legs, your feet. And for all that it's a posture that allows space for movement and an ease of movement, we very quickly realise, of course, the effect on the legs. That slight curve that develops in our knees and our hips, which I'll come back to in a few moments, means that the muscles in the lower back and buttocks, legs, calves, thighs, and so on are beginning to work a little bit harder. So the pressure has come off the joints of the body, but the load has to be taken. And one of the things that we're trying to do with all of these movements is to spread the effort more through the body. The legs are always going to take the lion's share, of course, when we're doing standing exercises. But we want to try and get a sense of movement throughout the whole body, of effort throughout the whole body, rather than in isolated spots. Again, something I'll come back to in a few moments. For now, just raising your arms. So, particularly for people who are familiar with these initial exercises, it can be worth spending more time with them, because we establish some very basic principles that we want to try and maintain and cultivate through the later exercise. And in terms of our daily lives, it's those principles that hopefully we will be able to bring into our daily activities and benefit from. Let your hands drop down. Take a short step forwards, just moving your weight from front to back, and just feeling the movement from your feet upwards. So it's a gentle push against the ground. Your body will turn a little bit, so we start to feel that an action in our feet, that gentle push down, has an effect on our hips and our shoulders. It's feeling of our whole body beginning to move as one unit, rather than this feeling that we can sometimes get of sort of, there's a foot down there and a hand up there, and everything is very kind of fragmented. And when we feel like that in the body, we're also going to feel like that in our mind, in our energies. And so one of the things that we start to do is to bring our attention into our body, become more familiar with this sense of the whole body moving as one unit, and a general sense of just gathering in those three elements of mind and body and movement. A quietening is generally associated with that, a sense of centering, and grounding, and rooting. There's different ways that we can label it. And again, this is something that is a feature of the whole art. And then change over. It's also important, we don't want to overlook the physical side of this. If you're going to do any kind of physical activity, then preparing your body for that, warming up a little bit, getting the blood circulating, softening the muscles as a result, is very important. So these are good exercises to remember for the early morning, as a way of just preparing yourself for the day. Very simple, very straightforward, easy to remember. They don't require a great deal of space. And shake out. So again, coming back to the parallel posture and starting with the shoulders. Gently push your shoulders up towards your ears, just as far as they're comfortable, and then letting them drop down. Focusing first of all on the downward, contracting movement, how that feels in areas like the chest, your upper back. This is the feeling variously labelled as releasing, softening, yielding, letting go, relaxing. They're all terms that could be derived from the Chinese character sung. And as you get used to this, rather than thinking of sung as a noun, a kind of thing, an object in a way, try and just have a sense of it as a verb, a process, getting the sense for the quality of the movement and developing an intention to feel that quality in both directions. Now, a little bit more difficult for most of us to begin with, at least. Bringing your attention back to this central part of the body, pelvis, hips, waist. Very gently again, pull your belly in, tighten across your hips, and again releasing. So it's the same idea. You hopefully got a sense of what that now means. So the intention is to feel the same, first of all, as you release that tightness in the body, but also gradually to build it into the drawing in, so that what you might notice is as you say, pull your belly in, you kind of grip the muscles. But you don't need to do that, it's just a gentle contraction. And what I begin to notice, and some of the things I begin to notice, one is, importantly, when I release in the center of my body, I actually get that feeling of releasing all the way through my body. So this is a key area. Another thing is, in particular, if you watch my knees as I release, there's a slight curve develops in the knees. I hesitate to use the term bending at this point. And there's a very strong feeling of dropping. So again, this feeling of our centre of gravity dropping towards the ground through that process of releasing, rather than trying to bend the knees. Practice this enough, and after a while you realise that as you lose some of that tightness in the body, you become aware of an inner quality, a stronger quality, maybe starting with an awareness of your rib cage, your pelvis, maintaining your structure, maintaining your strength, and just beginning to realise that we don't need that tightness, that stiffness. That doesn't mean it's just going to magically go away, but it's a good starting point. And this time, as you release, just let your hips drop back a little bit more. So now the knees will bend a bit more, but go easy on this, don't go too far. And see if you can just feel that point where like the balance shifts, the compression in your legs seems to overcome the pull of gravity through your body and pushes you up. But then at the top of the movement that reverses, gravity takes over and pulls you down. So your body starts to expand upwards, but your centre of gravity staying in the ground. This is why we call it rooting down. It's like a plant that grows out of its root. Expanding and contracting, seeing if you can just let that settle into a nice steady rhythm. Again, you may find that your breathing just naturally begins to harmonise with this rhythm. If it doesn't, don't force that to happen. And even if it does, what you may find is that every now and then, perhaps you need to take an extra breath or a longer breath. So now bringing your hands around so you're cradling the ball, and let the expansion in your body push your elbows out, turning over, hips dropping, shoulders dropping, arms falling. So we have a cycle of movement that starts with the sinking down, and then we feel that gentle push down through our feet that pushes our hips up. Our hips push our shoulders up. From the shoulders, we feel the movement going out through our arms into our fingertips. Just beginning to become aware of this very subtle undercurrent of movement, the flow, the energy arising, draining away. A movement, an energy that isn't specific to one part of the body or one function, but rather just seems to underpin all of those different kind of movements with a sense again of a rhythm, a flow, a harmony. The physical aspect of rooting down, the dropping of our centre of gravity, very importantly, really helps us with stabilising. And we need that stable posture so we're not sort of feeling as though we're about to fall over and tensing up as a result. But also the rooting down, as we're discovering, is a process that leads to this very fluid energy working through the body. Aware of any areas that feel a bit stiff or a bit tight, not sort of focusing on them too much, but just encouraging that feeling of releasing in those areas. Bring an intention that you want that flow working harmoniously through the whole of your body. And again, we may find that some of those tight spots just begin to dissolve away. It's not always that straightforward. And it's not about it being all in the mind or anything like that. But these are deliberate, intentional movements, qualities that we cultivate. And this time, rotating your arms out. As you push up, your arms are pushed away from your body. Just gently swing up and then following down. This is the wild goose. One of the ways that we commonly focus that intentionality in these arts is through the use of imagery. It can be very interesting to observe how our bodies respond to different images. You won't find that with any image, but the name of this movement suggests the bird in flight, which may carry some kind of quality to it. But one of the most common, pretty much universal images that we use is that we're moving through water. And again, that encourages that slightly softer quality of movement, particularly in the big muscles and joints of the body. Use the images as they're appropriate. Don't feel it a failure if an image isn't working for you. Letting your hands drop down, crossing in front of your belly. Again, your elbows going out just a little bit, drawing your fingers around in a smooth circle. This is parting the clouds. Perhaps a slightly more abstract image, but you can imagine that feeling that we get. We've had a lot of very sort of like grey, dark days recently, and then suddenly the sun comes out. So a kind of expansive quality that we begin to feel. Very much a feature of this movement. You want your hands to stay in front of your body. Don't strain to achieve a high movement. What we often do when we do that is something like this, and this pulls us out of line. Move as far as you're comfortable moving, maintaining that feeling of movement or flow within the body. We gradually find that our range of movement will increase, but you should always feel that you've got the potential for a little bit more movement. There's still that sense of space within the body. This time, letting your hips drop down, letting your arms drop down again, feeling the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders. And next time you push up, focusing on one side, drawing your elbow up, elbow drawing your fingers up, and then just gently winding around. Notice my elbow's still bent. And pull down. This dragon plucks the stars from the sky. The weight of the arm, feel your hips sinking, and then push up, switching your awareness, your attention to the opposite side, and pull down. Trying as much as you can to maintain that awareness of your posture and your movement at the very front of your attention. You will find that other thoughts intrude. Of course they do. We have lives that are very busy, things going on. These things will pop up almost like these tunes that get stuck in your mind. When that occurs, don't try and push them away. Try not to get frustrated at it, but rather just gently switch your attention back to the movement that you're making. Maybe the quality of the movement or the mechanics of the movement. And this can allow those other, what we might think of as intrusive thoughts, just to take a back seat. So we're not pushing them away. They can be quite important, but it's almost like we're just taking a little break from them for a while. Notice whether you're speeding up. Remember, there's this moment in the movement where you're just allowing your hips to sink. So at the moment what we've got is this very visible, hopefully, mechanical movement. Your hips are going up. That pushes into your shoulder and your arm, then the hips go down and pulls the arm down. But again, what we're really doing is allowing gravity to draw us down and feeling the response from our feet and our legs from the ground beneath us, which is that upward rising movement. So do one more of these, and don't go down into a deep posture, even if that's one that you're used to doing, but just let your hips hang back a little bit. And again, knees in line with the balls of your feet, hips in line with your ankles. Roughly speaking, don't sort of force this. This is the kind of thing that you're looking for. A slight feeling of overhanging in lower back, hips and buttocks, almost like you're sitting on top of a fence. And so that overhanging feeling shows us that gravity's still working. It's still drawing us down. And so we've still got that downward movement working through the body. We've still got that upward response. You might liken it to sitting in a soft chair. You feel the springs absorb your weight, and then there's a kind of stabilizing point, or dropping into water and feeling the buoyancy of the water holding you in a particular position. Bring your hands lightly touching the sides of your hips with the side of your arm, and hands are palm up here. So we have a movement and energy flowing through the body, and then just feeling our backs lengthen, pushing our arms up a little bit, and then slowly down. Pushing them up again, and this time drop your elbows down, push out, and back. So a feeling almost of lengthening through your back, as though somebody were gently massaging your back up its length. And then across your back, and that movement flowing into your arms. And then as you push out, you turn. Again, just noting any areas of stiffness and tightness, but not straining against them. Turn the other way, and back, and then facing forwards and pushing out. What we may find is that massaging quality, that fluidity of the movement, just begins to gently sort of erode and dissolve those areas of tightness. Other times we might find it more appropriate to think a bit more technically. And once again, as you push out, don't pull your arms back, turn in your hips. So if you pull your arms behind your shoulders, you'll probably tighten up in the back. Or maybe you've lost that sense of overhanging in your hips, and your knees have tightened up, and your whole body begins to lock up that way. So there's various things that we can do, that we can bring into the movements and the postures as we become more familiar to them, that serve to really enhance this flow of the movement. Which we land on, which sort of approach we take, can vary. There isn't an inherent right or wrong. It depends partly on your experience, and in particular partly on what you feel is appropriate at the moment. Sometimes just reminding yourself of the quality of movement that you're looking to cultivate is sufficient. One more round. It's called pushing in 4 directions. Gentle feelings through the whole of your body, particularly your upper body, being gently massaged, being bathed. And then letting your arms drop again, feeling the weight of your arms on one side, pushing your arm away, drawing your fingers back a little bit, soften your elbow, noticing how your arm just curves up and then straight down past your nose, your sternum, your navel, so down the center line of your body. Feel the weight of your arm again, and then once again push away. Gentle rotation. Try not to sort of strain in your shoulder. Sometimes you might find that an image of somebody just gently pressing down on your shoulder as you push your arm away encourages your body to find a way of moving that doesn't involve that strain. And then gently turning. Now, switch to the other side. So this is an art that brings together three aspects of ourselves. The body, of course, the mechanics of the movement, and that can become very, very subtle indeed. The alignments that we look for, again, that can become very, very subtle. Awareness and our intentions, so the mind, the gathering of our attention and the focusing of intention, feeling that overlap between body and mind. The third element is the movement, the flow, the energy. And then add in the turn. So this is an art that integrates all three of those. It's hard to get good flowing movements if your posture, your structure creates tightness in your body. The smoothness of the movement can have that calming, centering effect on the mind, making us more aware of our posture and our structure. And so these different elements really reinforce each other. Now, go back to this movement, just letting your hips drop back. Be careful with these next two exercises, as always. Not just if you happen to be new to this, but more experienced people. Remember, we're listening to our bodies. And there's no point in listening if you're not going to take any notice. So if it so happens, if you were, if you were out mowing the lawn yesterday or something like that, and your back's a bit stiff, it's unreasonable to expect it to be as fluid as maybe it was last week or something like that. So take that into account. But as we do this, and our hips drop back, there's a little adjustment in the pelvis. If I, for instance, pull my belly in and prevent that adjustment, and I do this, I very quickly fall over. So this very subtle change in the angle as our pelvis adjusts to the change in the body has a very profound influence on our posture, our stability, and our movements. Mostly, we keep that pelvis as much as we can level. But this time, as you sink down, push your hips back so the pelvis tilts and the whole of your upper body tilts forwards. Then, once again, focusing on your hips and your lower back, simply allow gravity to pull that area downwards and see how that brings you gently to the upright position and up. This is a really important element in the whole art because it means that we begin to come to an upright stance without having to strain in our bodies. And again, this allows the space for movement and flow. I'm going to use this time, pushing your arms out a little bit, and then as you sink down, push your hips back, that brings your hands over, gently lengthening through back, arms and fingers, and then coming back to the upright position. This is rowing a boat in the middle of the leg. It's not a competition to see who can extend out the furthest, and remember that internal feeling of the flow requires space. So you should always feel you could have moved a little bit further to encourage that internal movement. And then coming back to the upright position, bring your hands palm down in front of your belly, turn, then push your hips back, sending your hands, sliding your hands forwards, gently swing your hips across, let them drop down and turn back to the front. This is called polishing the table. So it's two-way movement, two dimensional movement in hips and pelvis, the center of your body, drawing your arms around a very gentle circle from behind. This is exaggerated, but I want you to see the movement. See how my hips swing across and then back up and round and turning in the other direction. Hips go back, extending through your arms gently and around. And again, not losing that awareness of how we come to the upright position without having to stiffen and to strain in our back, our shoulders, feeling almost as though your head were floating up, giving us this very characteristic, very open, spacious posture. One more time. And then just come back and stand, and again just gently turning, just to give the big muscles of your back, shoulders a chance to loosen up and reset, because those last two exercises are obviously quite strong. And just shake out. Always remember that we're changing our posture, we're changing the way that we move, and so there's a kind of reconditioning of the body for the significance of mind and movement, energy in these arts. The vehicle for those is the physical body, and so we need to go very gently and very carefully. These are strong physical exercises apart from anything else. Now, coming back to the parallel stance, imagine parallel lines going across the room. Turn one foot out and step forward with the other foot on that line. So maintain the width of your step. If you stepped like this is going to get a bit precarious. It's like you're trying to balance on a log or something like that. The width of the step supports you better. And then just once again, beginning to transfer your weight forwards and backwards. This time, we're going more slowly, so give yourself a chance to settle in these legs. It's that releasing feeling again. So you let your weight go into your front foot, you release in your hip. It may involve the knee bending a bit more, but not necessarily. But what it does do is root you down in that supporting leg much more effectively. And as we discovered earlier, when we do that, we get that sense of compression in the leg. And I'm going to exaggerate this, I don't want you to do it that much. It's like everything sinks down here and then the leg goes to straighten. And what we do is we use that movement, that energy, to move us into the other leg. Again, I would emphasize that was an exaggerated movement. Be careful with your knees. This is a great exercise for the legs. You're only getting a partial movement of your weight. You'll be probably getting about 60% of your weight into the front leg, maybe as much as 70 into the back leg. You could use the image of moving through water. Just imagine the pressure against your front as you go forwards, against your back as you go back, and feel how your body again responds to that. It can start to feel this sort of change within the body, this movement, almost like water itself is flowing into your back and into your front, sort of flowing through all the internal tissues and organs. Go into your back foot and gently raise your front toes, and you'll find yourself just shift back a bit. You have the front foot a little bit turned out here. You go forwards, you push your back knee in so the heel comes up, and again there's a slight shift. Again, that's exaggerated. Gradually bringing your upper body more in line with your supporting foot, and once again allowing your centre of gravity drop down through that leg and foot until really most of your weight is now flowing down through that supporting foot, and then say from the front foot bring the back foot in, push back, position the foot, put the board of the foot down, lower the heel, gently push in and move the weight back. With the front foot, pull in. Same idea, but the heel goes down first, then the board of the foot. A moment just to really push into the ground and then move the weight. Imagine you're doing this on thin ice. What you don't want to do is this sort of drop through the ice. You want to put your foot out, test the ice with that little push down, with what we call planting the foot, and then move your weight. So keeping the width of your step, but probably not as long a step as you're accustomed to making. Allowing your centre of gravity to drop, aligning your upper body with your supporting leg. Good. Try that on the other side. Notice then again any difference in the feeling on one side of the body or another. Take your time to release, to settle into each leg. You just remembering that feeling of moving through water. That is an image that is useful to you. Beginning to recognise the significance of the weight transfer. It's a very precise movement. We want the weight to go here, into the foot, into the foot. If I get that wrong, and if the weight's a bit random and it kind of goes over there somewhere, I'm just going to sort of stumble, aren't I? So weight transfer is an essential part of movement. And again, there's an intention here that is really important. Raising your toes and your heel. Every now and then, just giving yourself a moment to recall, rooting down, releasing, called the quality of the movement from previous exercises, so that they form part again of the intentionality of the movement. Your mind remains an active part of this process. Try not to sort of space out, and recognise that you may well have drifted off. Again, as you get used to these movements, it's easy for that to happen. You can be sort of somewhere out there, but we're trying to cultivate a sense of being gathered, being quiet, being calm, right here. Stepping in, and the hips dropping back, help you to maintain an upright posture without stiffening up. Notice whether Something that is very common is your fingers are stiff or something like that. And then when you put in, step through, plant the foot. So you can go forwards or backwards, depends where you have the room, of course. Taking a few steps, don't hurry. Just give yourself a chance to feel this process of walking, that is such an everyday movement for most of us, but which we don't often take time out to notice. And then changing direction. And just as our awareness, our gathered awareness, our focused awareness assists the movement, so does the movement assist that process of gathering. We have something to bring our attention to. It's not possible to think of nothing. And it's certainly not possible, I find, to sort of not think about a particular thing. But we can begin to shift our attention, and an awareness of our bodies, our posture, our movement is really useful for that. Good, and shake out. Have your right foot forward, so mirror in my movements. Start with your weight in your back foot. From the side it looks like this. Move your weight forwards, but leaving your arms behind for a moment, and then just letting them follow and swing through. And back. A wave-like movement that starts in your feet, flows up through your body and out through your arms and your fingers. This is fisherman cast the net. See if you can just bring a close attention to subtle changes, expansion and contraction within your body, that flow of movement that underlies all the other movements. And you again with that image of moving through water. A natural curve in the movement of the fingers. You don't need to lift them. So as you go into your front foot, just turn to your left, so that now, as we've discovered before, send your arms out to the sides. Come back, let your arms drop down, go into your back foot, turn the opposite way. This is the movement, wind blows the willows. When told in Tai Chi, we're given us a formula as the movement is rooted in the feet. That dropping of the centre of gravity and that dynamic quality that arises from that. Transmitted through our legs. We've seen many ways in which that happens. Guided and directed through the centre part of your body. And then that movement expressed through the upper body and arms. As we move, maintaining the sense of being centered, being grounded. Good, and have your left foot forwards. So building those movements up again, starting with fisherman cast the net. And this is a really useful exercise to practice because it contains all of these qualities, the root, the generation of the movement, the energy, the flow of the energy, transmission of that movement through our bodies. The role of mind, if you like to think of it like that, these three elements of mind, body and energy blended into one harmonious whole, all in one very simple exercise. So the fisherman cast the net. This time going into the front foot and turning, wind blows the willows. It's the turning in your centre that gives the direction to your arms. You don't have to twist from your shoulders or anything. So maintain that open, spacious quality in your upper body, expanding, contracting, expanding, contracting. We're going to combine this with stepping that we did a few moments ago. Again, going forwards or backwards, depending on where you have the room. I've got a wall behind me, so I'm going to go forwards. I go into my front foot, and as I turn, pushing my knee in, bringing the foot in, hips dropping back. This is dragonfly skims the water. Planting your foot, turning, bringing the foot in. Give yourself a moment just to check your posture. Step through. And if you feel comfortable with this, your posture allows it, raising the leg. Just draw your knee up, rotate your hip. Don't do this if it feels very precarious to you. If you feel as though you're kind of wobbling around, about to fall, just keep the toes down, that's fine. But it's something to build, remembering that we achieve the stability through the rooting down, through the yielding, releasing to the pull of gravity. So now, if you haven't done so before, change in direction. Hips are dropping back. Try not to strain in your back or your shoulders, because that would tend to make you a little bit top heavy. And then bring the feet back. Shake out. Okay, let's once again do this little tapping exercise. Doing it at this end of the class, it can help just to take some of the tightness out of the muscles that may have built up. And again, it brings our attention back to something very, very simple and straightforward. So lightly over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. And then on the other side. And lower part of your back. Do this with one hand or with both hands, whichever is more comfortable for you. Quite light on the lower part of your back. Going around your hips. And your legs. There's no special order with this. I generally do it in a particular way, but you do it in any order. Light on your belly, and then the upper part of your chest. Shake out. So to finish, come back to the parallel posture, and again, all of these qualities of releasing, of rooting down, the qualities of calmness of mind and so on and so forth that go with it, are all outcomes of this practice. They're all things that are temporary states. We could lose them very easily. So with this last exercise, this is kind of a favourite theme of mine, isn't it? So this idea of how we come back to that. And this is called Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain. You let your hips drop down and then you push up. And there's a good chance as you push up and your arms go out and then they come around and hold the ball, that somewhere or other will develop a bit of stiffness, a bit of tightness. You lose the focus of your attention. But then you bring your hands back in, let your hips drop and sink down again. Return to the mountain. So one useful thing to do, one useful thing to take away with you is just to recognize what it is that brings you back. Keep it simple. It could be something I've said or a name in the movement or some other association. But what would be most useful to you later in the day or later in the week? Maybe when things are a bit hectic, you're feeling a bit tired or frustrated, a bit tight in your body. What would be most helpful for you to recall at that point? Just to recover some of these qualities that we find in the practice. Embrace Tiger, return to the mountain. One more time. And stand. Release it. Shake. Lovely. That always goes so quickly. Thank you very much, everybody. So, thanks very much. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to say them now or to get in touch with them at some point.